Thank you everybody for joining today's interview and discussion with Olympian Merrill Moses. Before we begin, I'm going to give a brief introduction of today's moderator, Wesley Kading. Wes is a multi-Maccabiah athlete competing in the last Maccabiah and the last European Maccabi Games in both water polo and in swimming. In addition, he founded the LA Athletic Club's water polo program and currently sits on USA Water Polo's SOPAC zone board. Prior to playing in the United States, he competed in both Hungary and Germany in their top divisions, as well as on the U.S. junior national team, and he continues to participate in the U.S. National League as part of the development of our future Olympic athletes. So thank you everybody for joining, and Wes, I'll pass it off to you.
Thanks so much, Steve. And Merrill, good to see you again, man. We're super excited to have this opportunity to kind of talk to you. Obviously, it's not every day you get to speak to a multi-time Olympian, and we'd love to learn a little bit more about you, just kind of where it all started, and discuss, how did you start playing water polo? Like, what was that moment that you're like, okay, I want to play water polo, or did somebody like myself, like my mom, throw you into it?
Pretty funny story, actually. But again, thank you guys for having me, and thank you guys for all tuning in. Look forward to giving you a little tidbit of information about myself and the water polo community. But I actually, like most, thought I wanted to be a big football star. In 7th and 8th grade, I was playing Pop Warner football. I grew up in Palos Verdes in California, Southern California. And when I was going into my freshman year in high school, my 3 schools on the hill combined into one powerhouse high school, Peninsula High. And when that happens, all 3 different teams for each high school end up combining into one team. So I learned very quickly that I was an average football player at best. And was walking around my new high school and heard the crazy whistles of water polo, and went and asked the coach if I could try out the sport. It was a really hot summer. There's a pool. And I, asked if I could jump in and try out. He said, not a problem at all. I wanted to be a field player because I wanted to score. So I actually did not become a goalkeeper until I was forced into the goal my sophomore year, when they had everyone try it out because they needed a goalie. And I have this long wingspan that my parents have blessed me with. And the rest is history. That's how I ended up in the sport of water polo.
And you didn't play any other sports after that? It was like you fell into water polo, you loved it, and that was kind of it.
No, actually, my father was a big person on playing as many sports as possible, and I kind of lead by his example with how I father my children too. He said it would keep me out of trouble, which is very true. So in high school, I played volleyball also, and I actually was going to end up going to play college volleyball instead of water polo, but ended up having an injury to my ankle my senior year. And luckily in the sport of water polo, it's not weight bearing. And so, that kind of led me on the path of walking on to Pepperdine to try and make the Pepperdine team.
And so it's a great segue, but were you not recruited to play goalie at Pepperdine for that team?
I was not a recruited athlete. I chose different schools that I wanted to walk onto. So I was looking at Cal, USC, Pepperdine, and Redlands. And honestly, I was most likely going to go to Redlands. But I walked up to Coach Schroeder when I was visiting the school and told him, "Hi, I'm Merrill Moses. I'm going to be your new starting goalkeeper." He was like, "Who is this guy?" Yeah. But I love the campus. I love the philosophy. And he said, "You know what? I'm going to give you a chance to walk on. If you get in on your own with your own grades, I'll give you a tryout." He gave me a tryout. I came in the best shape of my life because, I'm the guy that walked up to him and said, "Hey, I'm going to be your new starting goalie." Now, with that being said, he had a freshman that was heavily recruited and a senior that was playing in his 4th year, but came in incredible shape and beat those guys out.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know if in my lifetime I was aware of any goalie who walked on and then took their university to their first ever or at least maybe first ever national championship and only national championship that Pepperdine's ever won in 97. What was that like? I mean, what was that process like? Very few people in the world get to say that they've done something like that, to go through that postseason, win that first one and the only one, which you obviously didn't know would be the only one to date, in 97.
Well, it's definitely, it was a building process for sure. That was my junior year when we won the national championship. And it started our sophomore year. We redshirted two of our best players. So for those of you that don't know, redshirting is where they practice but don't play in games. And they were two seniors, Jack Coker and Alan Herman. So they redshirted to give the team time to grow and experience a whole season. And then my junior year, which was their fifth year senior year, those were our two team captains. And it's kind of funny, we were a team that people didn't really believe in at the beginning. We weren't ranked in the top four. We had knocked people off. And we actually only lost one game during the season, and then ended up losing two games in the postseason tournament leading up to NC2As. So which I think was a blessing, because it showed that we weren't invincible per se, and ended up beating USC in overtime and winning our first national championship. It was a special moment for sure, something that you strive to do as a collegiate athlete. But I think it was definitely a team effort. And I always say that the best teams win championships, not the best individuals. And we ended up beating them 8-7 and had 7 different players score. So only one of our, one player only scored 2 goals. It was such a team effort. They couldn't come out with one MVP. There was 3 MVPs of the game. And I was one of them, had a good game. But it was fun. It's, something that you strive for. And then my senior year, we got close. We made it to the finals of the conference championship, but lost to Stanford by 1 goal. And so we didn't make it to NC2As.
Wow. I mean, three pretty incredible years for Pepperdine, and obviously having a great goalkeeper like yourself in there makes all the difference in the world, as kind of that backbone of the defense. And during that time, 96 was obviously an Olympic year, I believe, in Atlanta. When did you start training with that national team? And obviously Schroeder wasn't the coach then. It was, I don't know who it was in 96, if it was Radko or not, but when did you start training with the national team? When did you know, okay, you had the potential to go from a not really a high school stud goalkeeper that we're used to seeing going into playing D1, you unrecruited walk-on to winning a national championship. Now all of a sudden you have this opportunity to play on the national team. What was that process look like to get selected for you in that time period when, US was arguably at its height there?
Kind of funny story is back then, which is non-existent now, I got a handwritten letter from the national team coach inviting me to come train with the team after my senior year, which was after basically 98 going into 99. And so I was on the training squad for the 2000 Olympic team. And that was John Vargas, who was the coach actually.
Oh, okay.
And I knew that I was one of the low goalies on the totem pole. There were 6 goalies training. They only take 2. Yeah. So I knew it was one of those things where it was going to be an experience factor. And obviously, like you said, going into college, did I think that was possible or even my dream? No. But having Coach Schroeder as my coach and mentoring me as a player and a person, learning from his Olympic experiences, once I, took the ownership of the starting position for 4 years at Pepperdine, then I reset my goals. And my next goal was to represent Team USA in the Olympic Games. And luckily I worked extremely hard and got that invitation. But then it was a lot of work, being the young guy, with 6 goalies. I put in some serious time. For those of you that don't know, playing water polo for the Olympics isn't like playing basketball for the dream team. There's not big salaries, not big benefits. You do it for the love and representing Team USA. And I ended up being cut for the 2000 Olympic Games, which was expected. And then ended up going and playing my first year professionally in Spain. after I got cut, and then came back after a year and started training with Radko Rudic, which you talked about, to try and make the 2004 Olympic Games.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, water polo, as you and I both know, is arguably the hardest sport in the world to continue to play, because it takes such that elite level of fitness and focus to stay at the top of your game, and really even just to continue to play it at a high level. So, those 4 years between 2000 and 2004, what were you doing? Obviously playing professionally, it sounds like, in Spain. Did that continue for all 3 years? And then in the off season, what was that like for you? Being part of that group and that process of staying mentally sharp and ready to go, because I'm sure it can be very daunting and exhausting at times.
That was my only year playing professionally. It was the first year in Spain after I got cut, and then it was 3 extremely grueling years of training under one of the hardest coaches in the game, Radko Rudic. But I think it was a great learning experience because he tested the body's limits and made us realize what we could do. We were doing things that we didn't think we could do. He had weights on the deck. We would be lifting weights, then going in and doing leg sets for the goalies. They would be doing sprint sets. So it was intense. And for those of you that don't know, the training schedule for water polo for the Olympics is we're training 6 days a week, 7 hours a day. It's not straight. It's broken up. Some days we'll only go 6 hours if we don't have weights, but it's 2 3-hour water workouts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then weights usually after or before the morning workout. It's one of the most physically demanding sports. A study's been shown that it is the most physically demanding sport in the Olympic Games because you don't really get rest. But it's something I love and I was ready to commit to because I wanted to represent my country in the Olympics.
Now you've been fortunate to represent us in the U.S. here now for, was it 5 Olympics?
I wish. No,
4.
It was,
sorry.
No, it was 3. So I ended up getting cut from the 2004 Olympic Games. Okay. I was one of the last people cut, and I was devastated. I thought that my goal of being an Olympian was done. I actually ended up going into the mortgage industry for 2 years and stepped away from water polo. And then in 2006, I got a phone call from Coach Schroeder, full circle, where he was named to be the assistant coach, and Ricardo Azevedo was the head coach. And they talked, and Coach Schroeder said, if I'm going to take this position, we need a goalie to get us back to the podium, and I have a guy in mind. And he said I was his first phone call. And I told Coach Schroeder I've been out of the water for 2 years. I'm like, it would at least take me a year to get in shape, because if you're out of the water, Wes, for 2 weeks, it feels like you're jumping in oil, right?
Yeah.
So I told him it would take at least a year. Coach Schroeder said, don't worry, we have 2. And I laughed, but I was doing very well in the mortgage industry. It was extremely successful back then. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to accomplish my goal of representing Team USA in the Olympic Games. So I went and talked to my boss and told him I'm hanging up the suit and tie and grabbing out the Speedo and getting to work, and have no regrets whatsoever. It did take me a full year to get back to shape. And I got to fight for that starting position. By no means was it given to me. We had extremely talented goalies with Brandon Brooks and Janai Kerr battling, and ended up making the Olympic team. It was announced a month before the Olympics in 2008. And the battle between me and Brandon Brooks went all the way up until about 3 weeks before the Olympics, where I was named the starter for the 2008 Olympic Games. And
what an incredible experience to go and medal in those games. And having done it now 3 times, what is it like? And something that very, very few people in the world get to experience, walking out in the opening ceremonies for that first time, the second time, the third time. Does it get worse? Is it something you ever don't look forward to?
No, it's amazing. I'll tell you, the first time obviously is the most special for sure, because that's when it kind of clicked. I always tell people when the torch was lit, it was like a fire was lit inside me. this is time where the games are going. And I realized, wow, I've accomplished my goal that I've worked so many years to get to, of being an Olympian and representing my country. And I was like, all right, it's go time now. Let's get to business. We're here to win a medal. And, what does Team USA go to do? What's embedded in our heads? We're going to win gold medals. Yeah. We were ranked 9th in the country going into the 2008 Olympic Games. People didn't think we had a shot, but our team believed in each other. Coach Schroeder was the head coach at that time, and we believed in his philosophy, and we just knocked people off step by step. But it's kind of interesting. A lot of people don't realize this is we had an amazing run, but we came short. We ended up, winning a silver medal, but we don't look at it that way. When you're in it, you're like, I lost a gold medal. You have, the people to the right of you celebrating a gold medal on the podium, and the people to the left of you are cheering because they might not have even gotten a medal and they got the bronze medal. So you really don't realize it until years later. We were all devastated, and our team decided to stay together except for 3 players for the 2012 Olympic Games in London. And those games were just as special because, we thought we had something to prove. And that's where it kind of got interesting. You talk about opening ceremonies where, some people say, oh, well, walking in opening ceremonies might hurt your legs because you have a game the next day. But us as a team believed it's such a special moment that you have to be a part of it to understand, because there's some first-time Olympians, and to take that moment away from them, we didn't think was right. And we ended up playing a great game after anyway. But in 2012, when we got knocked out of the medal round, we ended up getting 8th place. That's when it really sunk in how special what we did in 2008 was.
It puts in perspective just how difficult that kind of run is.
Water polo is the only sport that goes for the whole 2 weeks. So you have to be consistent for the whole 2 weeks. In 2012, we had a great first week. That's just pool play to get you to the knockout round. And so you can have a great pool play, but if you get knocked out in the knockout round, it's all for nothing. And so definitely different experiences. In 2016, we got knocked out after the first week. So had different experiences, but every Olympics, loved my team. We definitely gave it our all and represented our country as best we could.
And through that experience, personally, I'm kind of curious, who did you find to be the toughest opponent?
For sure, Hungary. That's who we lost. That's who we lost to in 2008. They won 3 gold medals in a row. That's unheard of.
That was a historic team, Merrill. You came up against a team that was arguably the best group of players ever assembled in the history of the sport.
Yes, for sure. They're amazing. Great guys too. That's the one thing I love about water polo. It's a very tight-knit community, and you're going to battle against these guys, but after the game, you're giving them hugs, and then you get to know them too, playing professionally. So after 2008, that's what propelled my professional career, where I played in Croatia for a year and played professionally in Italy for 2 years. And for those of you that don't know, there's professional leagues in Europe where it's on TV, it's in the newspaper. And so I was doing it as a profession, and I got to play against some of the best players in the world playing for those teams and got to know them a lot better. But Hungary, definitely one of, the best teams in the world. Also Serbia ended up making a great name for themselves. And Dejan Udovicic, who's our current USA coach, was one of the main coaches for Serbia. So they had some great players. All the teams are pretty good: Montenegro, Greece, Italy. But I'd say Hungary and Serbia were 2 of the toughest to beat.
And so, through all of this, do you have a favorite memory? I mean, it's probably difficult to pick one, but if you could identify one, what would that be?
I'd say one of my favorite memories is definitely walking into my first opening ceremonies with the Dream Team next to Kobe Bryant. So those who don't know, Kobe Bryant grew up in Italy and loved water polo. And so he actually invited our team to a closed practice with the Dream Team. One of my teammates, Adam Wright, who's the coach of UCLA, got to shoot horse against him. Funny story. Kobe asked if there was any rules. Adam said no. First shot, he went up and did a windmill dunk. And Adam's like, I can't do that, you know, but you know, he was a great guy and definitely will be missed. But that was one of my favorite moments. And then obviously getting to that gold medal game, we were playing Serbia in the semifinals, and they were the team to beat in that Olympics. And we lost to them in pool play 4-2, which is one of the lower scoring games in the Olympic Games. And to hold that team just to 4 goals was a feat in itself. But then we ended up playing them in the semifinals, and everyone thought they were going to crush us. I ended up having 17 blocks, and we beat them 10-5. So, you know, that was a pretty special moment in my Olympic career to get to that gold medal game.
And for those of you who don't know, in water polo, we say if you hold the team to 7 goals at any level, you've done a phenomenal job. You deserve to win the game. To hold Serbia, who's arguably been the best the last 4-8 years, to 5-4 is unheard of with the firepower that they had in 2008. Absolutely incredible, Merrill. So you could see how that could be a very favorite memory of yours, especially given the goal total. It's no wonder you remember that. And through all this, you know, were you able to meet other Jewish athletes at these international events? Was that something you kind of experienced?
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, one of my, you know, met a lot of, obviously water polos, you know, we're around water, so you hang out with a lot of swimmers. You know, Anthony Irving, a great swimmer, great guy. Got to know him through some appearances. Lezak, also an amazing man. You know, Jason Lezak, he's one of the best swimmers of all time. Dara Torres, the awesome swimmer who did great things as well. Tim Morehouse, a fencer. I did some promotions with him. You know, great guy. And then met the gymnast Ali Raisman, but didn't have the same relationship as I did with Tim or the swimmers. And then one of my favorite Jewish athletes is one of my teammates, Josh Samuels from 2016, who was just inducted into the Los Angeles Jewish Hall of Fame as well, who was my teammate. So definitely had some great relationships with Jewish athletes and loved every bit of them.
That's wonderful. And so you're for sure not going to go to what is now 2021 Olympics, right? Is it safe to say that that's off the table?
It's safe to say I could, if the coach would allow me, I might be able to, but yeah, I'm focusing on my family and coaching at Pepperdine. I'm the associate head coach of Pepperdine University. Been coaching there since 2012. Blessed to have a university that allowed me to coach and still compete for the 2016 Olympic Games. And I get to coach with Coach Terry Schroeder, who was my coach and also my Olympic coach as well. Yeah,
full circle there. And that's just incredible. And he's just obviously done so many great things for the sport. When did you begin to start coaching? Was this always something you obviously went into mortgages early. After that, you play water polo. Now you're coaching. When did that start? And was that always something that you had aspired to do?
No, it was not something I always aspired to do. I actually was going to follow in Coach Schroeder's footsteps in the chiropractic world. Okay. And I took care of all my prereqs and was planning after the 2012 Olympics to go to Palmer College Chiropractic School, and ended up doing everything to have that lined up. And then Coach Schroeder gave me a phone call after the 2012 Olympic Games and said that he's going to come back and coach Pepperdine, but is going to take a year off. And would I be interested in being the interim head coach? And he said, I know you have chiropractic school, but I wanted to give you options. And spoke it over with my wife, and I still would have had 3 years of chiropractic school. Didn't even think that was something that I was going to go down. But, you know, me and my wife had a long discussion. She was 8 months pregnant at the time as well with our first child. And I told her, this is something I would love to do. Probably will make less money, but I will enjoy it. And I want to give back to the program that gave me so much, because without Pepperdine, I wouldn't be the man I am today. I wouldn't have had the opportunities I had. And the fact that Coach Schroeder let me walk on and prove myself, you know, I wanted to be next to him coaching, learn from him, and help mentor young men, boys, per se, to grow up and become great men that are good fathers, good husbands. And so I took that opportunity and don't have no regrets and love coaching.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been very rewarding for you. And now looking forward to kind of, the 21st Maccabiah games, how have you been to Israel before? Is this something you've done before?
No, I've never been to Israel. Always wanted to go. And been in contact with the Maccabi games and always wanted to represent Team USA at the Maccabi games. But it's always been conflicting because after the Olympics, we have world championships. And so I was never able to work out the schedule where I was able to be there the whole time. And so it never worked out, but it's something I've wanted to do for the past 2 games. Because I believe it's something extremely special, and want to, learn about my heritage, go to Israel and represent our team for sure, and bring home a gold medal.
Well, you're going to need to be in good shape to do that. So don't stop the training.
Oh, I've been training, and no, I plan on, doing something special over there, and I'm very excited about representing our team and getting a chance to finally compete at the Maccabi games. And I think it's going to be a special moment in my career for sure.
Yeah, and we're very excited to see you kind of participate in this format as well. I think we're all pretty high on that. One more question, and then we're going to actually go to some of the questions we're getting just through the chat. What advice do you have for high school athletes to aid in their recruitment? What can high school athletes do better to get themselves in front of the right college coaches and do the things that will make them successful in their recruitment?
One of the things that people don't realize right now, especially in the time we're in right now, coaches are in front of their computers more often right now. We're not on a pool deck. And a lot of athletes are kind of shying away from reaching out to coaches. If anything, I'd say reach out to them more right now. And one of the things that I think is very important is setting up a good video, because you got to realize coaches aren't able to be at all these different spots. And we've recruited athletes just off of a good video. Now, don't say, hey, I'm number 12. Here's an hour of game film. Check me out. It's got to be edited video where there's a circle showing the offensive end, the defensive end, 6-on-5, 5-on-6. The only time you could actually get away with saying, hey, I'm number 1, the goalie, check me out, because then you don't have to watch them. But still, we want clips, and the video should be no longer than 8 minutes. Okay. Also, something that people don't realize is fill out recruiting questionnaires. So pick 5 schools that you're very interested in, fill out recruiting questionnaires, and that'll pop up on that coach's phone once you fill that out, that you feel that you're in their database, and they'll know you're serious about recruitment then.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. The recruiting game has absolutely changed, evolved over the last 10 to 20 years with the advancement of technology. Those are all things that I certainly didn't have access to during my recruitment. Yeah. So very, very helpful. Very cool. So the first question we get, what's on your diet when you're training and you're playing? What does that look like?
So, we're burning so many calories. Yeah. You could say, well, eat anything, but I always say what you put in your body is what you're going to get out of your body. Mm-hmm. I haven't had a soft drink. I don't eat since probably my freshman year in college. I definitely think hydration is a key part of success in athletics. Stay hydrated and don't overdo the Gatorades because it has a lot of sugar. Water is your friend. Drink lots of water, and eat as healthy as possible. Fast food is not that healthy. Luckily in this day and age, people are more in tune with healthy eating. Mm-hmm. I ate a lot of fish. Mm-hmm. And vegetables is what I did. I ate a lot of fish, vegetables, but I did have to, it took more time to prep the meals. Mm-hmm. But, I looked at it as, again, I'm getting out of my body what I put in, and I needed that proper fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good advice. And so when you're in Spain and playing, who did you play for in Spain?
I played for Zaragoza. It was a Division II team. And I actually ended up playing with Jack Coker. And went over there, earned a spot on the team. So Division II is not like Division I. The pay isn't the same. Basically, you're getting enough to just survive. But the way it works is if you win the division, you bring that team up to Division One. We ended up going undefeated and bringing the team up to Division One. So that was pretty special.
Yeah, it's amazing. And where is there? I don't know where Zaragoza is based. Where are they?
It's in between Milan and Barcelona.
Okay. And that must have been just an absolutely amazing experience to have, because that's near the beach, right? You're kind of near the coast and you get to travel around playing.
3 hours from the beach, but still.
So not that close. No. My geography's terrible.
No, but no, we definitely had games in Barcelona and visited Barcelona. So it was fun, but water polo was huge there. Mm-hmm. And then in Croatia was probably the highest team I played for, where we played for the Euro Cup, played for Šibenik. We ended up third in the Croatian league. And then in Italy, I played for Nervi, which was a team that was that brought me in, and I played with a bunch of young players, mm-hmm. And tried to keep them, to maintain them staying in the Division One so they could keep their sponsorship, and was successful. Actually brought them to the playoffs both years. So it was fun, kind of molding the younger guys for that team to make sure they stayed in Division One.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had that experience a couple of times now, bringing from Division Two to Division One and helping those young guys stay in Division One. Probably what led to you being such a successful coach is having those experiences as a player and that backstop for them. I've got a great question here from a former player of yours, Mr. Parr. Wants to know if the language barrier was difficult for you in Spain.
Sam Parr was one of my great lefties at Pepperdine. Loved coaching him. Great player. Thanks, Sam, for being on here. Language barrier for Spain was not that bad because I took Spanish in high school and in college, but they do speak a different version, Catalan, so sometimes you get a little lost. I'd say the biggest language barrier was when I played in Croatia, for sure. Okay. But the teammates helped you out. I learned what I needed to direct in the game. Mm-hmm. And then in Italy, Italian was pretty easy because it's pretty similar to Spanish. And I was pretty fluent in Spanish, that it was easy for me to understand. And by the second year, I was speaking pretty good Italian.
Amazing. That's got to be fun. And so this is a great question. Who's the greatest athlete you've ever blocked?
The greatest,
greatest shooter you've ever blocked.
You know, there's some great shooters out there. I can tell you some of the players I had the hardest time blocking, but I ended up blocking them, you know, because I see a lot of shots. But Kashash from Hungary was one of the better players that I played against. And Goalie Kish from Hungary, the lefty. Yeah. So, you know, those are two big time players that definitely were some of my nemesises for sure.
Well, I mean, you just listed arguably the two best, well, maybe the best lefty that's ever played, and certainly in Kashash, potentially the best player that's ever played the game.
I'll give you another lefty from Serbia. Filipovic was a pretty difficult player as well. But yeah, with the goals they scored, I mean, I had some blocks against them too.
Yeah. So what's some of the advice that you give your team and maybe even middle school and high school kids today who can't practice and aren't sure that they're going to have a fall season? What can they do to stay focused and stay fit and ready to go in the event that, you know, they do have a fall season, and to maybe a life advice to carry them through their high school careers and hopefully play in college?
Yeah, no, I think some of the biggest things we're stressing our athletes is to keep a schedule right now, mm-hmm. And stay active. Get showered, get dressed, and have a routine. Because if you don't keep with the routine, you kind of get lost with all of this, with us staying at home. For example, from 4 to 5:30 every day, I'm out in the driveway with my daughters, and I'm bringing them through circuit training, and it's helping me stay in shape, and they're having a lot of fun doing it. So I think that's the biggest thing, is creating a routine, sticking to it, trying to work out for at least 30 minutes 5 times a week. And, you know, if you can do 6, that's even better. I promise you it'll be hard at first, but once you get in the routine, you'll start to feel so much better, not only physically, but mentally. Right now, a lot of people are struggling mentally because it's trying times for sure. Yeah. But staying active, staying in routine is gonna help you. And right now, staying as healthy as possible, and mm-hmm. Hopefully, when we are able to get back, we'll be able to get back, and you'll be in as good a shape as possible. But with that being said, know that your coaches have a pulse on where you're at. So we all know what everyone's going through. So when we are allowed to get back to training in high school and college, it's going to be a slow transition.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're going to hit the road going 100 miles an hour like, you just had practice last week. Everyone's going to want to make sure we prevent injuries and have a slow transition to help build up everyone's base.
Merrill, you've always struck me, and in all my experience playing against you or with you, it's always been you're one of the great competitors and just so passionate in the water and really give your whole heart when you're in there training and playing. I am curious, and Clayton asked this question as well. It's funny that he asked it, but one thing you would have done differently, and you don't strike me as somebody who's like totally regretful, but I'm sure you can look back and as self-improving or self-critical as you might be, and as intense as you are, what is something maybe you would have done differently in the past?
Luckily I have put everything out there when I've trained that I could look myself in the mirror and know that I put myself in the best position possible to compete at the highest level. You always can look back and say, woulda, shoulda, coulda. And one of the things, maybe we could have done is when we were competing to go to the 2012 Olympic Games, we had professional contracts and we decided to stay home as a team that year before the Olympics instead of playing professionally. And, we've talked amongst each other as a team, and we don't know if that was the right decision, but that's what we came to as a team. So I guess maybe that would have been one of the things is maybe continue to play overseas against the professional leagues. But again, we made that as a group decision and we stuck by it. And you always, can look at hindsight, 2012, we didn't do that well. But luckily I've always tried to make it so I have no regrets. And I encourage all of you guys to do that too. You want to be able to look yourself in the mirror and go, you know what? I gave 100% in everything I'm doing. I didn't take time off in training. I made sure I took care of my body because unfortunately I do know athletes that have regrets because they can't look themselves in the mirror and they know they didn't give 100% all the time.
Yeah, certainly. Rachel Jaffe, who was a silver medalist at Maccabi in 2017 for our women's team, wants to know, one tip that you would give to be one of the world's best goalies. What would you say that one of those attributes that it takes to be one of those world best goalies?
Number one thing, strong legs. And that goes along with field players too.
Sure.
But we play a sport where we can't touch the bottom. So, the stronger your legs are, the better player you're going to be for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And another question that's come in here, and we have time for a couple more. What do you suggest to athletes on teams that maybe don't go to the large competitions, but do want to compete at that D1 or D2 level? What can they do to improve their visibility?
Again, creating video. And then also, unfortunately the Junior Olympics were postponed this year, but, moving forward, that's something that almost every coach in every division is going to recruit at. Mm-hmm. So, that's telling coaches what tournaments you're going to be at. And letting them know your game schedule and sending video along with that to entice them to come watch a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Piquing their interest. Right. And so a former goalie from both Maccabi in 2017 and European Maccabiah in 2019, Adam Greenberg, would love to know, hey, what land drills or exercises are you doing to build up that leg strength outside the pool during this time?
It's funny you say that. I'm so much more coordinated in water than on land. This is the most squats I've done I think ever, but it's all body weight. And I'm doing side squats where I'm kind of emulating the egg beater kick. So I'm kicking off to the side to kind of strengthen my kick out. So I'm doing that. I luckily have a band that I strap on my neck and I stand on it, and I'm doing squats with a resistant band. But if you don't have that, you still can just do squats. There's so many things that you can use, just books, and hold them out. There's stuff. So you have to get creative with stuff that you have right now. But And then bike riding. I've always been a big component of the stationary bike. Obviously, I don't have one. So I go on bike rides around my community, and I've always thought that bike riding helps build strength and kind of emulates the egg beater kick as well.
And my wife is begging me to ask this question, but do you have a Peloton?
I wish. No, I do not have.
I'll tell her we don't need one then. That's fabulous. That's good to hear. Awesome. Well, Merrill, thanks so much. It's been amazing to have you, spend 45 minutes here with us and have the opportunity to kind of introduce you to the Maccabi world. There's no other questions here. If there's anything else we can answer for you, we're very excited to have you on the program and for 2022 now. Just kind of henceforth. So welcome to the kind of the group.
No, thank you so much. I look forward to representing the Maccabi games and being a part of the community for many years to come, and being an ambassador as well, and love the chance to try and get a gold medal for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're there, right? We're there to win.
Yeah.
So thanks, everyone.
We actually do have a couple more questions, Wes.
Sure. Yeah.
So a couple that came in earlier. One person wanted to know, how large is water polo in the U.S. and how does it compare to other countries in terms of number of athletes and the popularity?
I think water polo is, one of the fastest growing sports in the U.S. They've just, I believe the members are close to, I don't hold me to it, but I know it's over 50,000 members now for USA Water Polo. The only downside is overseas, they have professional leagues. So it's higher at the upper echelon levels. The highest league we have is college. And so that's the difference. But I'd say compared to overseas, we have more younger players playing. So it's just a different animal. Overseas, they're on TV, they're in newspapers, they have professional leagues with sponsors. That's something I would love to have happen in the United States. Just unfortunately, not enough people know what the whistles mean or what water polo is about, and it's hard to compete with the big sports here.
And one last question that came in earlier. Someone wanted to know what being in the Olympic Village was like. Like, what's the social life? What's the atmosphere like? Like, can you give a little, how it was being there?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's awesome. That's one word to describe it. Obviously the living quarters aren't, lavish by no means, but it's pretty cool, and that's not what it's all about. I think that being able to be around all of the athletes from all of the countries and interact with them, I always tried to actually sit with someone random and ask them about stuff and see what their story was. The dining hall was probably one of the best experiences because you get to see everyone, and it's ginormous. You get to see athletes from all over the world that you've watched. Like, I sat down and ate with Nadal, and he was such a nice guy. Serena and Venus they stayed in the Village. It was kind of interesting to see when the Dream Team didn't stay in the Village. When they came in, it was interesting to see the flock that went to the basketball players. It's a special thing, and the atmosphere is great. One of the hard things is like you said, is as competition goes on longer, some people are done with competition. The Village definitely gets louder, but you just got to stay focused. As a water polo player, for example, in 2008, we were walking back from our game off the bus, and people were going to closing ceremonies. So that kind of puts in perspective. We just had our medal game. We had to get our clothes on real quick to go to closing ceremony. So it's the whole time.
Thank you. And before I forget, we did get a message earlier from the U.S. General Chair, Alum. He's on the call. You already touched upon this, but he wanted to know your thoughts and expectations joining us for 2022, and all of our sentiments that we're very happy that you're going to be able to join us.
Oh, I'm ecstatic. Like I said, this is something I've wanted to do for over 8 years now, and I've been in contact with the Maccabi games, telling him I wanted to do it. It's just never worked out with my schedule because of Team USA and the World Championship schedule. I'm extremely excited to represent Team USA. Extremely excited to be my first time in Israel. My family will be going, and my expectations is to bring home a gold medal.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Merrill. If there's no more questions, that's all that I can see. So thank you very much for giving us your time and your input. And Wes, thank you so much for conducting the interview. You did a great job. We really appreciate it. And can you confirm that Leland's going to come out of retirement and play on the team with you guys?
Leland's always got a spot, I think, on our team. I don't think anybody's going to keep Leland off the team.
I'll be the first guy over 70 to represent the country.
As long as he can sprint.
Leland, I'll throw you the counterattack, man. Just leave your guy. You cherry pick. I'm going to give you a goal.
Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. This has been an awesome experience. Good to see you again, Merrill. Glad you're keeping well during this crazy time, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you, Wes. Everyone stay healthy and safe, and I appreciate you guys tuning in and learning a little bit more about water polo myself.
See ya.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.